welcome our first guest, Alexis Wong, who's the CEO of AG Capital, one of the very few women developers in San Francisco, I should say successful women developers. I passed by the project called the Grand Soma?
Soma Grand.
Soma Grand.
To get that right.
Right next to the new federal building.
Correct.
And it's how many stories high?
22.
22 stories high. So you actually are building. In other words, you don't have projects in the middle. You have a project you're building right now. And I think because our viewers are familiar with all the other developers we've had on, politics, development is politics in San Francisco, correct?
I would say that.
And here you are, a woman in a field that is very, very dominated by men. It's one of the last fields I've seen, because I'm in real estate myself, where I see someone who owns their own company but is also a developer. So do you play hardball politics when it comes to development?
I don't play hardball anything.
But you must be tough.
I know what we stand for, what we want, and in return we also know what we can give back. I think that our way of embracing politics in our process is not to play hardball or softball, is to really present ourselves with good projects and know how to speak to them on the same level basis.
Who are you talking to? The planning department?
Planning department, community.
Tell me about this project. How did this project evolve?
Interesting that you ask. One day we passed by the site and someone brought to my attention that the site might be for sale. And it was subsequent to the redevelopment agency selling it to a company that is not a developer. And I understand that there's a future federal building that to be built. It
wasn't there at the time.
It wasn't there, and no one knew when the commencement date was or if there's even going to be broken ground. But I thought, in the whole San Francisco, except for that little area called the mid-market, and I'd like to call it MIMA.
Okay.
The other part is really pretty much either developed or not yet to be developed. You've got the northern market, you've got the southern market, or the deep southern market. Then you've got the Civic Center. And then, of course, you've got the upper portion of the Tenderloin and the North Hill area. And you have this pocket that is screaming for development, and it already has a 10-year in making of its own project redevelopment plan. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to have the first privately funded development project in a soon-to-be development-spurred area. So that's kind of our first thought, and so we subsequently acquired the site, and we spent probably a longer period of time than I otherwise would in terms of researching on what we should do, meeting with communities and finding out what they want.
Is there a community, though, in that section right there? It's a lot of commercial development. I don't see a lot of residential in that area. So were you speaking, who did you have to react to in terms of your neighbors?
We interacted with them through mostly organized groups, such as the Mid-Market Park, which we ultimately became part of the members of. Of course, the Market Street Association, the Soma Park, Yerba Buena district. Even though these are kind of peripheral districts, we view that because mid-market is kind of in the gluts of everything else.
And there's a lot of community input into those organizations.
Absolutely, and they're very vocal.
Now, when you looked at the site in terms of what you wanted to put on there, who had the vision of a multi-story residential complex with lots of parking?
I must say, if we could get away with just having a big, nice-looking garage, I would go for it.
Just
but
a garage?
in San Francisco,
Would it start right at the 5th floor?
No, actually, unfortunately, we're definitely in a transit-oriented community, and understandably so. So we figured out what is the best compromise. What's the needs? So housing is a good need, and we didn't feel that was an area that would be a good fit for a high-rise office building. Parking is a necessity because of the federal building layout. It has no parking.
When you started getting into the design, had you seen the design of the federal building before you designed your property?
Absolutely. In fact, we had 2 meetings with them just so that we can design around them.
Okay. Now, your site talks about vision a great deal.
Yes.
And you talk about community vision. Here's an area that is controversial. I mean, the area is controversial because a lot of people have different visions of it. I've had Mr. Addington on. He has a vision of it. He's one of your fellow developers. I've had Randy Shaw on. He has a view of that area. I had even H. Brown on. And everyone has a different view of the area, but the dinosaur or the 500-pound elephant is Trinity Plaza, which is owned by Mr. San Giacomo.
Correct.
Another very strong developer in San Francisco. Now, you two came to some conflict. Explain how the two visions conflicted and where we are now on that.
I think conflict is a bit of a heavy-handed word. I think we had a misunderstanding of perspectives.
Really?
Yes.
But your lawyer filed a lot of briefs that were pretty critical of that project.
Well, I am not going to bore you with much of the details, but what it boils down to is that he has a fabulous project. I have not once said that it was not a good project for the area. I think our notion is, as a neighboring owner and developer, we were trying to be more proactive and have a more open dialogue, because as the streets become a community of its own, you have the GSA, you have us, and you have basically the buildings across the street that are now going through various stages of redevelopment as well. Then you have a major 1,900 units that are coming on board. All of these are positive changes, but in our perspective, it would be that much more powerful if we can all work together.
Well, I guess I want to get back to the vision thing. The cooperation is something different. There's many visions of that area, and they can't all work. Some see it as a place for affordable housing and even taking care of the homeless. Some see it as a new neighborhood that's similar to your project. Some see it as a retail hub. How are all these visions meshing? I mean, is it just that everyone's got their own piece of land and they create their vision on that piece of land, or is anybody tying it all together?
Think Bloomingdale, and then think the theater. And we looked at the redevelopment plan presented by the redevelopment agency a while back when we first conceptualized what is our vision of our project, how does that fit into the vision of the area. And I think our vision for the area is that it is going to have a balance between entertainment, a gateway from the retail components into community services.
When you say gateway, you mean from lower market?
From the lower market, from the Yerba Buena, from the Bloomingdale, Metreon.
How many blocks again is that from, let's call it the project site?
Right, 2 blocks.
About just 2 blocks,
Two
but
blocks.
2 long blocks.
2 long blocks, but it's definitely walkable blocks.
So it has some evolution between the retail that it's coming out of. It's still a theater area. It's certainly because your buildings there are going to be for market rate housing.
Yes.
Yuppie types.
Not just yuppie. I think that what we are envisioning is really being a pioneer in marketing lifestyle. We want to use this platform, meaning a virtually unexplored area in this regard, and put a very first, not only high-rise, but hotel service high-rise at affordable pricing.
You mean concierge type, room service type?
Serviced by a hotel. So
it would be like a hotel,
it would be,
but you'd be residing there.
Exactly. Think about the St. Regis, think about the Four Seasons without the actual hotel in it.
Yeah.
And it's a I think it's a pretty groundbreaking approach. Our partner, Jadavid, has been phenomenal in terms of developing our program. And
what kind of services would you offer?
How about maid service?
Okay.
How about definitely concierge, car detailing services, yoga classes.
I see.
Definitely hotel-related consulting services, room service. There's a whole menu that is a la carte that you can order as a hotel guest.
This is a remarkable, this is a remarkable concept for that area.
Absolutely.
Now, considering that the area is blighted, I mean, there are huge empty retail up on Market Street. It has no definition. It has no identity. It has no character yet. It has all these different characters in it. Do you think that you will create the vision for that area, or do you think you'll be just one component, much like Russian Hill, where I live? You have the very poor living next to the very rich, which makes a remarkable neighborhood. Is that what you're considering, that everyone can get along, or do you think that the wave of that area is towards your concept?
I don't think we're creating anything other than bridging. The South Market has been developed for many years, and all we're doing is we're bringing on a refreshed, one-of-a-kind concept, putting it in an area that has not been developed, but it is, to me, an extension from the rest of the South Market. And from the standpoint of creating a paradox that has the rich and the poor, no, that is not part of our vision. I think our vision is more about creating a lifestyle that embraces entertainment, that would be the same people that would be going to Bloomingdale or going to the Harvest Market buying their grocery, or going to a neighborhood bar for a drink, and going to the Orpheum Theater.
But the project, the Trinity Plaza project, it really is not Mr. Sangiacomo's project. It's really his and a lot of other people, including Mr. Daly. In other words, it wasn't his pure idea either. I mean, he had an idea that probably was a little closer to yours. How is it that he's gone through this thrasher that requires so much affordable housing, and you got through with very little?
Not very little. We just had the right timing, I think. And Mr. Sangiacomo's project is also much bigger in size. So I think
Are you going to be able to live with that project?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the people that come from your place and the people that come from his place, they're all going to blend on the street.
I don't see how we
Which
can't.
happens in San Francisco anyway.
Hayes Valley,
It happens
Fillmore
in the
District,
hotel
West
district is the is the center of the Tenderloin, but it's also the hotel district. So I'm sure that I mean, it's not that difficult. But it looks like then you're making a statement, and really you're going to just see where that goes. You can't control the entire area, but you're making a statement.
We are making a statement by telling the rest of the development community and the economic community that it is okay to invest in this area. It is okay to bring new idea in the front line of no man's land at one point. We see the potential and we believe in the potential. Again, one of the major interests we have in this area is the fact that this is the only pocket of town in the downtown district that has yet to reach its potential.
We didn't get into you as a person, but I think you showed the viewers that you can be a tough developer, a creative developer, and a woman developer. And you're a model. I hope that more women enter the field like you have. Congratulations.
I
Alexis
hope so
Wong.
too. Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.